Hi friends, this is the materials video for our summer sew along. We are going to be doing the Minimalist 2.0 wallet package from the Nosy Pepper. This package includes 4 patterns. If you pop over to her site right now, everything that you put in your cart is going to be 60% off, so you can get all 4 patterns for just $4. You can also get them individually if you don't want to sew all 4 of them with us. In the description of the Minimalist 2.0 package, there will be links to each individual wallet. So grab the 4-pack or the individual ones you want to sew. While you're there, grab the free nickel wallet pattern because we'll be sewing up that one too. These 4 will be our daily videos. I'll pre-record those and those will be posted for you to do in the 24-hour period at your own pace and at your own time. The free nickel wallet we will do on the 5th day, and I'll actually go live and do that one so that you can come and just hang out. If you want to hang out, you can sew the nickel wallet with us. You can work on any one of the patterns you want to work on, and I'll be there to answer your questions live. We'll be doing a daily participation drawing, so those drawings will be open for 24 hours, and whichever pattern that you're sewing with us, if you work on that one that day, you can get into a pool for the drawing for the daily prize package. And then we have 3 grand prize packages, and how we'll do that is we'll be a collage of everything you've done. We'll pull a grand prize for out of the pool that have done all 5 patterns. We'll have a pool that could only do 3 to 4 patterns, and we'll have a pool that could only make it for 1 to 2 patterns. So if you're not confident that you'd be able to get all of them done, you still have a level of participation. In addition to the patterns, you'll need 1 roll of vinyl, or you could have 2 contrasting colors. If you're using cork from Evelyn, you will need 2 rolls. 1 roll will not be enough for everything. This one is one of Evelyn's, and then I'm using a contrasting one. So you can get 2 of the same roll, or you can get 2 contrasting ones. This one's not from Evelyn. Your vinyl can be a 12-inch roll or an 18. This one just happens to be an 18. And if you get a directional print, that's fine. We'll be able to do everything directionally. You don't have to worry about certain pieces being too long. If you are doing the Livre wallet with us, you'll need a 3-inch piece of zipper tape. It calls for a number 3 size, but I'm using a number 5 because I wanted to use this matching pole to this vinyl. You can use a already ready zipper. We'll be able to put the back stop in the open hole so you won't catch it, and then you can trim it down to whatever size you need. You'll just need that 3-inch piece there. You can also harvest the zipper. I know that this seems funny to say harvest the zipper from a packet, a vinyl package that pillowcases or your blanket comes in. You can take a piece of the zipper for that. Just make sure that the zipper pull is within your 3-inch piece. You don't have to use any of the stops if you don't want to. And then you can use the vinyl from that package to make the wallet feature on the $50 wallet. So that's a way to be able to recycle something that you have at home. If you're making that wallet with us, it calls for 20 gauge vinyl. This is 12 gauge and it's plenty thick enough. And you'll see it comes on a roll like the vinyls and corks. I get this one from My Punk Broidery. You can also get some at Joann Fabrics. That comes in yards, so you can get just a 1/4 yard if that's all you need. If you don't want to go out and buy something specific, like I said, you can use the package from your linens. You can also use, if you've purchased hardware, it usually comes in a zip top package. And this kind that I got for some hardware in is pretty thick. So that would be nice to use, and it's a nice size, almost the exact size we need for that. You could also use a zip top bag. Some of them, the brands are going to be thicker than others, and you could always double it up. So if yours is kind of flimsy, you can always cut from that blank space both pieces and then just use it as one piece. So you don't need anything fancy for that. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy some special 20 gauge vinyl if you don't have any. You have something in your house you can use, I'm sure. You can also leave that window open. You don't have to put anything on it at all. You'll see how we cut out for the clear window. You can just cut that out of your fabric and leave it open. You could also cut your rectangle a tad smaller so that your ID isn't going to fall out of there, and it'll be tucked on all the sides, but it's still open. You might want some type of punch. This is a leather punch, and you just whack it with a hammer to get it to cut. It's an oval shape. You could use a hole punch, you could cut something out with yourself, or you don't have to use anything at all. But it's just a nice little addition to punch out that vinyl so that you have that thumb grip to slide your ID out. The feet you'll want to use with vinyl and cork if you're new to those. I highly recommend, and I prefer a walking foot. My walking foot is on my machine, I would say 99% of the time, whether I'm garment sewing or bag making. The only reason I take it off is if I need to use my zipper foot. And we will need a zipper foot for the lever pattern. Yours probably looks square and chunky. This is a slim foot, and it just hooks right onto my ankle. If you don't have a walking foot, you could use a Teflon foot. It's a plastic foot, and on the back of it, you probably won't be able to see because it's the same color, but there will be a piece of Teflon tape, and that's really slicky to help slide over your vinyl. You could also use a rolling foot, and it's just a foot with a roller in the front, and it glides along and helps pull that through. The reason I like the walking foot instead is it has feed dogs in the foot itself. So now you have feed dogs on the bottom, your regular feed dogs on your machine, and you have feed dogs on the top, and it's going to grab that vinyl and pull it through, just like if you're just pinching and pulling. It holds it together and pulls the top and the bottom through at the same time, as opposed to just the feed dogs on the bottom pulling, 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 and it's just counting on you having the proper foot on top to slide as that slides through. And that's not always the case, especially when you start getting thicker. Sometimes your Teflon foot or even your roller can get stuck and not roll, and then your top isn't flowing through the same as your bottom. I like a walking foot. If you're gonna have to purchase a foot anyway, purchase a walking foot. The type of needles you'll need recommended for vinyl is a Microtex, and they're sharp, so they will poke through for you. They're not super sturdy though. I prefer a jeans or a denim needle, and I use that in a 110 size. And that's what I'll be using for all of these. I might use the Microtex on the cork just because it's thinner and a little more delicate, but I'll definitely use my jeans needle for my vinyl. They have a newer needle out. I want to say it's called a super non-stick. It has a coating on it, so it kind of looks like dull metal, like the metal hasn't been polished. And I have tried it. I've used it with vinyl. It did okay, but especially when combining vinyl and the double stick tape, even though the needle is called super non-stick, it was the most gummy experience I've ever had. My denim needles don't gum with my double stick tape at all. So I just stick to my denim. I don't like the super non-stick. I just think the denim needle works better. And that's just for me and my machine and my preference. So definitely, you know, try a variety of needles and see what you like best. I don't recommend a leather needle. Yes, it's nice and sharp. Yes, it's heavy duty, and you would think that's what you want. But the leather needle is more like a hole punch and a sewing needle in one. So it's going to punch that hole and make a hole, just as if you were using a hole punch, and then you have a hole that's there permanently, and then it pulls the thread through at the same time as a sewing machine does. But when you're using a regular needle on the vinyl or the cork, and it goes in and makes that hole and pulls that thread out, it's kind of just pushing the fabrics open, and then it allows that to sort of seal back up. So when you're using that leather needle and you're going along punching, you're going to make a perforation that is just going to separate like a piece of notebook paper. And that's not what we want our vinyl to do. So I don't recommend using a leather needle on your vinyl. You're going to need some kind of clip. I'm going to use a darker color so you can see it. These are just sewing clips, wonder clips. Your pins are not going to be, you're not going to be able to get them in your vinyl. You're going to ruin your pins. If you do get them in your cork, you're going to leave holes that you don't want. So you want some kind of clip. You can use a bobby pin and slip them on there, and that'll hold it really tight. You can use clothespins, you can use binder clips, just something that's going to clamp and hold it together. You can go out to your husband's toolbox or your own toolbox and grab those little, sometimes they have the mini like C-clamps. Those hold really nicely. I stole some from my son, and I use those sometimes if it's something a little chunkier that I want to hold together, but something that's going to hold it that is not a pin. You're just not going to be able to get pins in your vinyl. We will need a little bit of double stick tape just for the zipper portion. So if you're not doing the lever wallet, you won't need this. I'm actually going to make all of these patterns one vinyl and one cork, just so you can see the differences. And I'm actually going to show a couple of different ways to do the lever wallet, and one of them is going to be minimal sewing. We'll have to sew the zipper in, but that's only through one layer, and we're going to do the rest of it with rivets. So if you want to try that version, you're going to need 8 rivets, and you'll need a hole punch for those rivets. I think this is called a Japanese hole punch. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the hole punch is on the bottom, and you just hold the handle and you push it and it screws itself to make that punching. You can also use the hole punch that comes with rivet sets, and then you just whack it with a hammer. Another optional item is these chopping mats. These come from Dollar Tree if you're in the United States. I think Canada has Dollar Trees as well. It's a 2-pack for $1. It's 11 by 14, and I actually would not recommend chopping vegetables on these. They are sturdy, but they cut very easily, and that's why they're quite ideal for crafts, because we can cut these with our paper scissors, and I've even cut them with a rotary cutter. I wouldn't use a brand new blade that you plan on using for fabric, but I keep a spare rotary cutter that I just use for paper cutting, and I've used that to cut these if I'm cutting straight lines, and it worked well. I had to apply a little more pressure, but it worked fine. So we'll use these, and they're clear, and we're actually going to, and this is an optional, so don't run out and get those if you don't think you need them. But a lot of the pieces that we're going to be using are rectangles, so they're dimensional, and I would prefer to cut those out with my ruler and rotary cutter. So instead of cutting out all these pattern pieces, I'm going to measure my rectangles and write the measurements down, And then just on the pieces that are not completely rectangle, like this one for instance, I'm going to trace this onto that mat with a Sharpie marker, and then I'll cut it out of that plastic. And that way I can clip it to this piece and it'll always stay with this piece. It's sturdier, so it's not going to curl or the edges turn over, especially if I end up using it a lot. It's also a good way to help with pattern placement if you have a certain image that you want centered or just all of it is showing. We'll be able to use that clear piece to put right on it. So anything that's not dimensional, I will trace with these sheets, and then I have 0 paper to cut out. So on this $50 wallet, I'll only be tracing 1 pattern piece. The rest I'll be measuring. On the Looney wallet, even though this is a straight edge, I'll still trace that piece just for ease, and I don't have to measure up the sides and then cut the straight edge. But all the rest of the Looney pieces are dimensional. The sterling wallet only has 1 piece. And then when I get to the Livre wallet and the free nickel wallet, you'll notice how the pocket pieces are arranged so that everything gets cut out in 1 piece. I'll do this whole piece of the Livre wallet because it has curved edges for the main piece, but then on the pockets, I'm actually going to divide that in half, and I'm only going to trace half of each pocket. It saves on my plastic, so I don't have this big piece, I have a smaller piece, and then I can use that piece if I want my pocket to be 1 piece. I can set that on there and trace it, and then flip it and trace it. And then I can still cut out my full piece. I can also fold my fabric in half and align the bottom with the fold and cut it out that way. And especially if you're using a rotary cutter, you'll see how these pockets come in. You'll be able to start at the bottom and rotary cut all the way around that, and then you're finished. If you had it flat and you're coming up, you have this little divot that you have to cut out. So that's a good way to combat that. Also, if you're using a directional print and you don't want the other side of your pocket to be upside down, if it's really obvious that it would be upside down, you can cut your pocket pieces in 2 pieces. And then when we go to sew this on, your bottom just has raw edges, which is completely fine because we have to stitch it anyway. And your sides have raw edges anyway. So you'll just have raw edges all the way around, as opposed to your pocket folding over the bottom to where you have a fold at the bottom. And it's not going to make a difference whatsoever. So like I said, I'll only trace half, my top half of my pockets, and then the same with the nickel pocket. I'll just trace the top halves of the nickel pocket. Again, that's just a preference thing, but I did want to warn you that I'd be showing you how to do that in case you wanted to go grab some of these mats. Another optional item is the edge paint. I use the Giardini brand. I think that's how you say it, Giardini. I just wanted to point that out. That's totally optional. I'll probably be leaving my cork raw edge. I usually don't paint my cork edges. But I did want to point out, if you're doing this, don't just go grab a color, because you need more than a color. It's actually a system. And I'm not going to talk a whole lot about this. There are many, many videos out there about this paint. But I wanted to let you know in case you were new to this and you thought, oh, it'll be fun, I'll grab some paint. You can't just grab the color. You actually have to have, it's like painting your nails, where you have a base coat, your color coat, and your top coat. The top coat isn't super, super necessary, but it does protect that color from like rubbing or peeling off. I go one step further. And I start with Mod Podge. It's an adhesive, and I apply it with a foam brush that has that tip right there. And I dip it in, and then I dab it on, and then I'm dabbing into the layers, and then you can kind of squeeze that together, and it's going to seal those layers. It's going to seal your edges, and then I don't waste as much base coat because the base coat is recommended of 2 coats. So I do Mod Podge, the base coat. I try to get away with 1 color coat. Depending on how thick you've spread it, you might need 2, and then your top coat. For my colors, I only have black and white. They have many colors. But I only use black and white just because I don't want to store a bunch of bottles, and I haven't run into anything that I couldn't put a black edge on or a white edge on. And again, it's perfectly normal and natural to leave all your items raw. You'll also need a roller pen. This just turns, and that's what you apply your paint with. We may need a hump jumper. We are going to get a few layers. This is a button tool that came with my machine, but you can put that under your foot and then put your presser foot down, and it gives you a little bit of room, and that'll help your foot go across because your foot likes to be flat. So if you're getting to something really thick and your foot's going up, that's when your needle starts going up and down right in place. We are going to make a DIY hump jumper if you don't have one. And we'll be using that white piece of vinyl that comes on the end of Evelyn's vinyl. So we'll cut off that white piece, and I'll show you in our next video how we're going to make a hump jumper out of that. Now you're probably wondering, why do I need 5 wallets? What am I going to do with 5? I can only carry 1. These are small, one-sitting projects, so you'll get lots of practice with your vinyls and your corks doing up these wallets. And by the end, you will have a good start on your gifts, your stocking stuffers. I like to keep these little items in a drawer with some extra gift cards, so in case I forget a birthday party or some occasion that I was going to, that I was supposed to bring a gift, I have a last minute option, and it seems like I really thought about it and put a lot of effort into it because it's a handmade item as well as a gift card or some cash. So perfect for stockings, so you don't just drop the cash or the gift card in there. It's got a little holder, and it'll help you practice your cork sewing and your vinyl sewing. I believe that is everything I wanted to show you. Feel free to ask me any questions.